I hope we don't go back to some of the practices in the past that, Harry and I had to grow up in. I think it's safe to say that change is on my agenda.
Late one evening, a statement attributed to Prince William sent shockwaves through royal circles and the charitable world, turning quiet whispers of irregular filings into viral headlines about missing millions at Archewell. What began as a routine financial review reportedly exposed unexpected gaps, forcing aides into frantic damage control and raising questions that stretched far beyond palace walls, threatening reputations, alliances, and public trust worldwide. Observers wondered whether the turmoil stemmed from a simple clerical error, a misunderstanding, or something far more serious: who authorized the finances, where the money went, and why these revelations surfaced now, when numbers seemed to matter more than family ties. As Prince William was said to distance himself while his brother's financial sphere unraveled, the focus shifted from emotion to arithmetic. Behind carefully worded public explanations about minor paperwork issues, a deeper review was allegedly unfolding inside Kensington Palace, where advisors were no longer asking if something had gone wrong, but how extensive the damage might be. U.S. tax filings appeared to paint a stark picture. Archewell had not merely slowed but faltered dramatically. After a seemingly golden year in 2021, when roughly $13 million flowed in amid global goodwill and peak optimism around the Sussex brand, the following year told a harsher story. By 2022, revenue reportedly plunged to about $2 million, a sudden collapse rather than a gradual decline, accompanied by losses exceeding $674,000, figures that sent alarm through anyone accustomed to reading the cold truth of financial statements. Meant that money was flowing out faster than it was coming in. For Prince William, this was not an abstract concern. As the steward of the Duchy of Cornwall, a multi-billion-pound estate, he understands that charities do not attract regulatory attention over simple paperwork errors. Oversight begins when financial patterns stop making sense. Palace insiders say his private secretary, Jean-Christophe Gray, a former Treasury communications chief, reviewed the U.S. Form 990 filings with him line by line, and what emerged fit a term investigators use bluntly: lifestyle bleed. At the heart of the scrutiny lay an uncomfortable question with no easy answer: where does charitable work end and personal enterprise begin? The review reportedly highlighted overlaps between donor-funded initiatives and projects closely tied to Harry and Meghan's commercial ventures, including high-profile deals with Netflix and Spotify. The issue was not generosity, but structure, whether a charitable framework had become entangled with efforts to elevate a personal brand. The implications were unsettling. Funds raised under humanitarian language appeared to be absorbed by heavy administrative costs, globe-spanning travel that resembled royal tours, and expansive public relations campaigns, suggesting a system strained by blurred boundaries. Trained by years of estate management and institutional discipline, William recognized the risk immediately. This was no longer a family matter, but a regulatory one. At that point, the story took its sharpest turn. He did not rush to defend or intervene. Instead, he reportedly issued a single measured instruction: let the process run its course. That quiet decision spoke volumes. As one branch of the family grappled with explanations and shrinking figures, another projected restraint, order, and credibility. Advisors and officials increasingly viewed William not merely as a future leader, but as a stabilizing authority in the present, with Catherine's calm, expanding role reinforcing confidence behind palace walls. Without fanfare, they embodied continuity. The contrast was stark. As Archewell's numbers dwindled and scrutiny intensified in California, trust consolidated in Britain. The real shock was not simply the question of missing millions, but the response to it. The crisis quietly reshaped the balance of power long before any crown was placed and while the investigation was still unfolding. As Archewell continued to unravel and scrutiny deepened, the question shifted from finances to authority: who truly held power now, and whether another dramatic twist still lay ahead. Behind the scenes, while California regulators prepared a forensic audit, William's team at Kensington Palace monitored every development with clinical precision. To state authorities, Archewell was no longer viewed as a struggling charity but as a potential breach of strict non-profit regulations. The missing millions were not seen as funds lost in transit, but as money absorbed by overhead, international travel, high-profile public relations campaigns, and lavish tours, all funded without the safeguards expected of a royal budget. William reportedly recognized that the foundation had ceased to function as a purely philanthropic enterprise and had instead become a liability with serious legal implications, facing consequences far more severe than a routine tax inquiry. Attempts by mainstream media, often echoing Sussex-aligned messaging, to frame the situation as a clerical oversight or minor accounting error rang hollow to someone trained in the stewardship of the multi-billion-pound Duchy of Cornwall. Delinquency notices, fundraising bans, and spending restrictions, he understood, do not arise from misplaced paperwork but from signs of systemic mismanagement. From his vantage point, William watched as California's Department of Justice prepared to peel back each layer of Archewell's operations, an audit likened by insiders to peeling an onion, revealing how donor funds may have supported far more than humanitarian causes. At the center of the inquiry lay the blurred boundary between charity and lifestyle enrichment, with auditors reportedly focusing on areas where funds appeared intertwined with Harry and Meghan's commercial ventures, particularly their Netflix and Spotify deals. The allegation was stark, that donor generosity may have been leveraged to subsidize personal brand building and global influence. For William, the numbers confirmed what instinct and experience had already warned: they were not just troubling figures, but a signal. And as the Sussex operation faced mounting scrutiny abroad, an unexpected shift was quietly taking shape in Britain, setting the stage for a new balance of command. Amid growing public skepticism, William and Catherine quietly consolidated their position, projecting calm authority and an unshakable sense of responsibility. Catherine's role expanded alongside William's, her steady, measured presence reinforcing confidence within palace walls, and together they came to embody competence in sharp contrast to the turmoil unfolding overseas. In this stark juxtaposition, leadership revealed itself not through proclamations, but through restraint and strategic patience. The true twist was not the audit itself, but its unintended consequence. By allowing the investigation to proceed without interference, William effectively drew a line in the sand. While one branch of the family destabilized under mounting external pressure, the other silently solidified its authority. In the shadows of controversy, trust shifted, perceptions hardened, and credibility became a crown worn without ceremony. What began as a forensic review of Archewell's finances exposed a deeper reality. While one empire faltered, another was already assuming the role of steady leadership, positioning William and Catherine as the monarchy's true center of command. Now the tension lies in what comes next. As California digs deeper, William observes from a position of calculated authority, letting the numbers speak and the process unfold, knowing the outcome could redefine not only accountability but the balance of influence within the royal family itself. Yet questions linger. How far will Harry go to escape the collapse of Archewell, and can William's measured watch reshape the family's future? While the public focused on misplaced checks and minor accounting errors, Kensington Palace recognized a far more serious reality. The missing millions were not simply lost, but absorbed into opaque administrative costs, extravagant travel, and high-end public relations campaigns framed as charitable work. To the California Department of Justice, this was not careless bookkeeping but behavior edging toward fraudulent solicitation, carrying severe legal risk. For William, trained in the meticulous stewardship of the multi-billion-pound Duchy of Cornwall, the stakes were unmistakable. A forensic audit exists to uncover fraud, not to correct typos, and if investigators determined that donor funds financed private jets, security teams, or media campaigns, the consequences would be profound. If donor funds were found to have been used to bolster Meghan's image under the guise of charity, the consequences would be catastrophic. This was never about a late filing fee or a minor compliance issue, but about the misuse of royal association, a misstep that risked tarnishing not only Archewell but the monarchy's wider network of patronages. The delinquency notice itself became a stain capable of spreading public doubt and further damaging Harry's reputation. William, according to those familiar with the situation, made a calculated and almost clinical decision: do not intervene. A forensic audit cannot be stopped with statements or press releases. The only viable course was to wait, observe, and prepare for the fallout. While California lawyers struggled to explain missing checks and irregular filings, William was already assessing the next set of dominoes. If Archewell were formally found guilty of mismanagement, the repercussions would extend far beyond finances. The next issue would not be a balance sheet, but Harry's visa. From his vantage point in Windsor, William was not simply reviewing spreadsheets but weighing a legal and diplomatic time bomb. To the British public, Harry remained a royal duke, but under U.S. law he was a visa holder, subject to strict standards of legal compliance and moral conduct. Corporate officers tied to organizations accused of financial misconduct can face serious consequences, and under California law, directors bear legal responsibility for their charities' actions. A finding of fraudulent solicitation or systemic mismanagement could implicate Harry directly, potentially threatening his ability to remain in the United States. As Meghan reportedly focused on public relations strategies to salvage the brand, Harry faced a far graver reality, one rooted not in headlines but in law, with possible implications for his residency and livelihood. This was the scenario William had foreseen, and it explained his decision to step back. By choosing restraint, he allowed the legal process to unfold, trusting facts rather than narratives to determine the outcome. And within this gathering storm, a stark contrast was emerging. As one branch of the family edged toward legal peril, William and Catherine stood steady, quietly reinforcing authority through composure, discipline, and institutional strength. William and Catherine continued quietly consolidating their authority, their measured composure, financial discipline, and steady public image positioning them as the unspoken anchors of the monarchy. While Archewell's auditors peeled back layers of questionable spending, leadership within the palace grew stronger, projecting competence, credibility, and stability. The true story was no longer the investigation itself, but the shift in power it set in motion. In the shadow of scandal, William and Catherine were already stepping into the role of real leadership, not through titles, but through calculated action and unshakable control. As California's probes deepened, the stakes expanded far beyond charity or money, with the potential to redefine influence, responsibility, and hierarchy within the royal family, effectively placing William and Catherine at the monarchy's operational center of power rather than merely its heirs. As scrutiny intensified, legal experts began issuing stark warnings that if the audit escalated into a federal investigation, similar concerns emerging in Florida Prince Harry's U.S. visa could be placed in serious jeopardy. Sources suggested Harry was scrambling to protect his legal standing, realizing that the fallout from Archewell's financial troubles now threatened not just reputation and donor confidence, but his very right to remain in the United States. A global debate quietly took shape. Should Harry be held to the same visa standards as any other immigrant, or does royal status offer protection from the consequences of financial mismanagement? From Windsor, William reportedly grasped the bitter irony that the prince who sought freedom from monarchy might now face expulsion from the country he chose as refuge. Unable to return to the UK without palace approval and exposed to US immigration law's strict moral character requirements, Harry appeared stranded between two worlds. From William's vantage point, the situation was stark. A life built across the Atlantic rested on unstable ground, and Archewell, once intended as a symbol of philanthropy and influence, risked becoming the very mechanism that unraveled it. If authorities were to determine mismanagement or fraudulent conduct, Harry's visa could be revoked, transforming a financial scandal into a deeply personal crisis. What once seemed like a routine delinquency notice now loomed as a lever capable of controlling his freedom of movement. Faced with that reality, insiders claim Harry began making desperate calculations, concluding that survival might require severing the very anchor pulling him under Archewell itself, and the figure most closely tied to its operation while, back in Britain, William and Princess and quietly reinforced the monarchy's stability. In England, while the monarchy quietly reinforced its internal stability, Harry faced a far more immediate and personal danger in America. What once appeared to be a mere reputational nuisance, the delinquency notice revealed itself as a contagion capable of undermining his legal standing. Reports suggest he began creating both physical and legal distance, retreating from his Los Angeles residence to highly secure, discreet locations such as the San Vicente bungalows in West Hollywood. Public statements continued to project unity, but behind the carefully managed optics, the reality was far starker. Legal pressure was mounting, and survival now depended on strategy rather than public relations. Harry's movements highlighted a widening divide within the family. While one branch consolidated trust, authority, and order, the other scrambled to protect its foundations, both figuratively and literally. The separation was no longer symbolic. It had become operational and unavoidable. What began as a charity audit was now shaping the family's future, redefining who held power, who commanded trust, and who would ultimately steer the monarchy forward. Archewell was no longer just a failed financial venture, it had become a lever capable of exiling a prince from his adopted homeland. As Harry recalibrated, William's quiet consolidation of authority underscored a new reality. Leadership was no longer about titles or ceremony, but about discipline, foresight, and decisive restraint. As the forensic audit intensified, Harry's reported retreat to the San Vicente bungalows, known less for luxury than for military-grade privacy and strict no-camera policies, signaled more than a desire for discretion. It suggested calculated self-preservation. In the world of federal investigations, proximity can mean liability, and by establishing separation from Archewell's daily operations, Harry appeared to be positioning himself defensively, preparing to argue distance should authorities conclude that donor funds were mismanaged or diverted into personal ventures that he was not directly responsible. In legal terms, establishing a separate residence functions as a firewall, a deliberate buffer intended to protect his visa, his status, and ultimately his freedom. Sources described the delinquency notice served on Archewell as the breaking point the moment Harry reportedly grasped the full scale of the danger. Behind closed doors, insiders speak of tense arguments and emotional confrontations, as he found himself torn between loyalty to his wife and the stark reality that the very foundation of his legacy and his life in America could be at risk. The fortress he now occupies is therefore as much psychological as physical, a controlled space to plan, negotiate, and brace for fallout while maintaining a public narrative of unity. Legal experts note that such separation is not merely strategic but essential in the eyes of U.S. immigration authorities. Directors of organizations under investigation can be held personally accountable, and any finding of financial mismanagement or fraudulent solicitation could imperil Harry's visa and jeopardize the life he has built across the Atlantic. By physically distancing himself from the Foundation, he creates a defensible position with courts and federal agencies, allowing him to argue that he was not directly overseeing operations during the period under scrutiny. As Archewell's collapse threatens to define Harry's American chapter, his retreat to a high-security enclave underscores a raw survival instinct, one that stands in sharp contrast to William and Catherine's steady consolidation of authority. Back in England, while one branch of the family fortifies public trust and institutional control, the other maneuvers to shield itself from legal and personal catastrophe. In this stark juxtaposition, the story of the monarchy is no longer about titles or ceremony, but about strategy, accountability, and who can navigate crisis while preserving reputation and future power. The stakes have escalated from financial mismanagement to personal survival, from public scandal to legal jeopardy, with every decision Harry now makes carrying the weight of potential deportation, relentless scrutiny, and a permanent reshaping of his place in the royal narrative, even as William and Catherine observe with measured restraint, their approach underscoring the widening divide. The contrast could not be starker, a fate diverging between two brothers, one consolidating his legacy, while the other scrambles to survive. The question now is what Harry will choose: to fight, to flee, or to face the law as William quietly tightens his grip on authority. As the Archewell scandal deepened, it reportedly began to reshape alliances in ways that stunned insiders, particularly within the Sussex marriage itself. Meghan, according to sources, viewed the audit and the swelling public scrutiny as an act of sabotage and pushed aggressively to counterattack, while Harry adopted a far more cautious approach, stressing diplomacy, compliance, and strategic distance. This clash of instincts, battle versus restraint, confrontation versus negotiation, fractured the unity that had once defined their public image. Where they once appeared inseparable, a visible rift emerged, carrying profound personal and professional consequences. From across the Atlantic, William watched with clinical clarity as his brother retreated into the fortified sanctuary of the San Vicente bungalows, a refuge designed not only for privacy but also as a legal shield. Inside, Harry reportedly operated in near isolation, phone camera covered, conversations tightly controlled, pursuing a containment strategy as though the walls themselves could insulate him from liability. The independence he once sought by leaving the monarchy had, in this moment, become a confinement of his own making. William understood that Harry was no longer trying to save Archewell. The Foundation had become toxic, and self-preservation was now the priority. Meghan, by contrast, faced the storm largely alone, exposed to intensifying legal and media scrutiny. Hollywood, once seen as a haven of opportunity, offered little refuge as donors withdrew, contracts came under renewed examination, and the public narrative shifted from admiration to suspicion. Legal experts in California warned that further findings of mismanagement could push the case into federal territory, endangering Harry's visa and exposing him to consequences far beyond financial loss. From the stability of Windsor, William observed a stark juxtaposition. While one branch of the family battled scrutiny and uncertainty, the other consolidated authority, projecting calm, competence, and continuity, with Catherine's steady presence reinforcing the image of enduring leadership. Stability and credibility now clearly rest with William and Catherine, whose measured composure amplifies their authority both at home and abroad. Meanwhile, Harry's retreat, though strategic, exposes a deeper reality. The crisis has fractured not just a charitable foundation, but the personal bond at the core of the Sussex brand. The plot twist emerges in the form of his physical and legal separation from Archewell. The high-security San Vicente bungalows, with military-grade privacy measures and legal safeguards, became both shield and symbol, a tactical withdrawal that protects him from immediate legal jeopardy while leaving the public face of their partnership exposed. Experts describe this as a kind of narcissistic collapse, where the illusion of unity disintegrates under pressure, revealing vulnerability, self-preservation, and the necessity of strategic recalibration. In this dramatic divergence, the stakes now extend beyond charity, finance, or public perception. The scandal has realigned power, reshaping relationships, influence, and authority. One branch of the family demonstrates unshakable control, methodically consolidating trust and credibility, while the other faces isolation, legal peril, and fractured personal bonds. The unfolding narrative underscores a harsh lesson. In moments of crisis, survival may demand sacrifice, distance, and a recalibration of loyalty, leaving the world to witness who endures and who is left behind. The Sussex legacy teeters precariously. Can survival outlast scandal and isolation? The consequences are stark. Once valued at hundreds of millions, the Sussex brand has collapsed under the weight of its own ambitions. Friends, allies, and A-list supporters have quietly disappeared. Oprah Winfrey, once a staunch advocate, has remained conspicuously silent. Glamorous dinners with George and Amal Clooney are gone. A Montecito insider told the press that the couple's social circle is evaporating like shadows at dawn, leaving Harry and Meghan increasingly isolated in the fallout of Archewell's collapse. Hollywood, as Prince William well knows, is a ruthless business, not a charity. In Tinseltown, proximity is a liability. Stand too close to a foundation under forensic audit, and scrutiny attaches to your taxes, reputation, and credibility. Archewell, once a symbol of royal influence, has become radioactive. The fallout extends far beyond public relations. Meghan's American Riviera orchard, envisioned as her signature lifestyle empire, now struggles to attract leadership willing to navigate a sinking ship. The ambition to translate royal status into American dominance has faltered spectacularly. Without integrity to sustain it, the empire has collapsed into delinquency notices and unsold products. Media coverage mirrors this downfall. The New York Times calls it a cautionary tale of post-royal hubris, while the UK press labels Archewell opportunistic at best, fraudulent at worst. Public approval ratings have plummeted, with only 22% of the public viewing the couple favorably. Meghan, once aspiring to be the Queen of Hollywood, now embodies a cautionary tale. Meanwhile, Harry observes from his isolated refuge in the San Vicente bungalows. Physically and legally separated from the crisis, the bunker provides safety but also clarity. Archewell cannot be saved, and the consequences are unavoidable. Behind him, William watches with measured, almost chilling detachment. By refusing to intervene in the California forensic audit, he makes it clear that the royal shield no longer applies. The foundation's collapse and delinquency notice are not merely financial or legal issues, they are lessons in accountability. The monarchy endures because it values integrity above influence. PR, awards, and silence can be purchased, but respect cannot. The strategic separation between the brothers reveals a deeper truth. One branch fortifies credibility while the other faces isolation and scrutiny. Forensic auditors are peeling back every layer, exposing how Archewell blended lifestyle, commercial interests, and philanthropy into a precarious structure. Meghan is left alone in the spotlight, while Harry contemplates the fallout from his secure but solitary refuge. William's decision to step back is not cruelty, it is clarity. He forces Harry to confront the steep cost of the freedom he once sought, the price of escaping duty, and the weight of responsibility he cannot delegate. The stakes are existential. Harry must choose whether to go down with the foundation he helped build or attempt to reclaim stability, even if it means returning to principles he once resisted. Through William and Catherine, the monarchy has emerged intact, demonstrating that leadership, foresight, and integrity are earned, not inherited. Archewell's downfall underscores a timeless lesson. Status and celebrity can open doors, but only integrity ensures you remain inside. As forensic auditors dig deeper, the public is left with a question. Should William intervene to shield his brother from legal consequences, or should Harry face full accountability like any other citizen? The answer will shape not just the fate of Archewell, but the ultimate legacy of the Sussex story and perhaps the enduring lesson of what it means to wield privilege responsibly.